Facebook here streaming with you today. We are excited.
Yes,
I
we
have
are.
the best guest in the world today.
Yep.
The most beautiful, sexy,
Hey.
awesome, amazing guest in the world, my beautiful bride. And so we're going to be talking all kinds of fun stuff today.
Yes.
We're going to be talking marriage.
yes,
We're going to be talking dating, friendships, relationships,
Yes.
everything and anything in between. And so, hey, if you got a minute, get out your cell phone. Look, I'm going to bring it up right here and share out the post. Send out a
Yes.
little share link. Be like, oh man, you need to hear this,
Yes.
auntie. You need to hear this, cousin. It's going to be so good.
Hey, if you have a girlfriend who's been struggling with relationships with guys, we got a word for you. So you get those girls on right now. Get a watch party.
Get
Say,
them
girlfriend,
on.
let's do this.
Yes, I hope everybody's doing well. I'm here on Facebook, so I can see everything kind of going on. And so give
Yep.
us a shout out as you guys are coming on. Look at we got
Yes.
Priscilla coming
Hey,
in
Priscilla.
today.
Good
It is
to-
amazing to
good to
see
have
you.
you.
People are tuning in, and so we're gonna give it just like 30 seconds. And I just want to
Yeah.
spend a couple times and saying, "Hey, we love you, church, man. I miss so
Yes.
much meeting together."
Yes.
And you know, God's been doing some good in the middle of all this, and we're actually have probably some amazing testimonies and stuff we're gonna share once we are able to come back all together, because it's been
Yes.
crazy to see God move in the middle of all this stuff going on for us as a church. It's just been so amazing. So just know that we love you guys. God is on the move. God is
Yes, He
faithful. He's
is.
taking care of us as a church.
Hang
and-
in there. Take a
Yes.
deep breath, because I know it's tough. It gets tough at times. On a good news today, as we're waiting, we gave out 400 boxes of groceries to our community, to Albuquerque. So
Yeah, they gave out quite a few.
That's
so I
cool,
think we still have
right?
some left, right? And so
a
over
few
the
they're
next-
giving to our Rivetta campus.
Yeah, so
So,
very, very
Good things
cool.
are still happening. We're here in our cafe.
Let's see who we got. Orlydia says hi.
Hi, Miss Orly.
Gigi,
Aw, Miss Orly,
Yolanda,
I miss you. I
Vanessa
hope you're doing
is
good.
there. It's great to see all of
Yes.
y'all, all y'all logging in
Yes.
today. It's awesome to be with you. We'll just get rolling with it, babe. We got some people coming in already,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
and we are going to be talking relationships.
Yes.
And so we kind of thought, man, what should we start with? There's a bunch of different areas, and
Yeah.
you know, probably a lot of you guys are married or single or maybe even divorced. I don't know, whatever your current relationship status is, right? I'd have to check your Facebook page. But I think one of the areas we thought would be maybe good to start at is dating. So for some of y'all, if you're already married and it's not really that relevant for you, I'm sorry. But
Yeah.
I will say, hey, yeah, I think you can learn something to teach your kids
Yes.
or teach your friend
Yes.
or somebody. So
Absolutely.
it should be good to
Yes.
get out there.
Uh-oh,
and
your
share-
mom's watching.
Oh, it's gonna get
Better
hot,
not.
Mom. Better
not
get
say
crazy.
too much. But of course, we have 3 kids, so.
Yeah. So let's start with dating. You are like so I want to say one thing about my beautiful wife is she is the ultimate matchmaker.
Well, not everyone listens to me. so
You're always trying, though.
I'm trying.
She's constantly trying
Let
to
me
set
tell
people
you,
up.
I know so many great girls and guys who are Christians and they're single. And I'm like, if you would just let me arrange your marriages, it would be wonderful.
We're big time believers in arranged marriages.
yeah,
That's for sure.
If you would
right?
let me, just give me
Spiritually
permission.
arranged, but I mean, your mom tried to arrange you a couple times. Imagine if that had
She
happened.
did. My mom had terrible taste. I love you, Mom, but thank God I didn't get with those guys.
And hopefully she's grateful that you chose me in the long
My
run.
mom's always was just like, if he's nice, date him. You know, if he's sweet. But I'm like, wow.
All right, before we
It's
get
gotta
into
be
it,
cute.
if y'all
Anyway.
have questions,
Yes.
I am here on Facebook. Sorry, YouTubers, it's kind of hard to moderate both at once.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Facebook, and so me and Sally can see what's going on. And so questions,
Yes.
dating, marriage, sex, relationships,
Yes.
I don't know, whatever you think in that area of romance, how to be romantic, whatever you want to
Yes.
call it, is
No.
make sure and
Got it.
and let us know. So let's start with dating.
Okay.
Why don't you start, babe? I know that you have a lot of great ideas, but what are some of your
My
what are
great ideas
Yeah,
about
what are some of
dating?
your great ideas about dating? Let's say dating, relationships.
Yeah. Well, I think dating, I mean, we dated we've been married how many years? 11 years.
11 years.
So it's been 12 or 13 years that we've dated. So I think things have changed a lot. I know online dating and Instagram, apps and all that kind of stuff has totally revolutionized dating today. So that's a different topic. I'm not too familiar with how well that that area is working.
Hmm.
But I know the good old fashioned way worked for us. You know,
We're old fashioned. What
in
can I say?
dating
Yeah.
of just knowing someone. I would say number one, friendship is important, if possible, right? Like just getting to know them and watching them, how they treat people, their love for the Lord. I think that's the safest way just to start a relationship. It's less intimidating and stuff. So
I'll say sometimes I feel like our culture, and I'm all for like, man, date, find someone you love. You know, we want you to. But sometimes I feel like our culture is obsessed with the idea of romance or the idea of the way a relationship makes you feel. And so I think with that, I think sometimes what happens is we tend to idolize or bring in expectations of a relationship that are unrealistic.
Yeah.
And not really like don't really work. Do you know what I mean? And so to me in dating, I think one of the things that really helped me and you along the journey is you're like my best friend.
Yeah.
Aw. But I really mean that. Like I felt like we had such a good relationship
Yes.
as we dated. And I think sometimes what happens with people is the physical attraction, which is important. Like you don't
Yes,
want to
it
marry
is.
or date someone who's not physically attractive.
absolutely.
But they think about just the physical attraction and don't think about all the other layers to it. First of all, like, do you get along with the person? Do you like the person? Like, if you're already bugged with somebody all the
Yes.
time and you're dating
Yes.
them all the time and fighting all the time and you're just dating, like,
That's
man,
already a sign. It's not like it
Yeah.
changes after you get married.
and I've seen people who fight a lot when they date and it works out great. Like they're good when they're married. You know, they go through their battles or whatever. But I feel like one of the best ways is find someone you really like to be around and like with, you're attracted
Enjoy
to.
life with.
That
do
you're,
life
you're
with.
spiritually going in the same direction. I think that's the one area I think so many times people don't put any.
That's massive for believers.
Totally.
I mean, like, I can't even. That is the biggest deal. Like, if the person is not like sold out for Jesus like you, like spiritually at the same level, if you're not loving Jesus, knowing Jesus, you're always going to be struggling. It's always going to be like trying to pull the other person up and force the other person. It's miserable. Like, you know? It's
Yeah,
massive.
I agree. And so finding someone spiritually
Yes.
that's going the same direction, that
Yes.
has the same heart for God, that's interested in spiritual things, like that isn't just, going a completely different direction. Because sometimes we feel like we can pull them in. And I've seen that happen on very rare
I
occasions.
can think of a couple that,
Like, I
it's
think of, like,
true.
2.
Yeah, that
But
it
for
did
the
work,
most part, like I've just seen it end up tragic for people.
Yeah.
And so again, I think having the same values, having the same heart for God,
same direction.
and I think personality, all that stuff can work it out. I feel like me and you, strangely enough, like we do have a lot of similarities in our personality, sure. But I think we also have a lot of pretty major differences, right? And so,
That's
but
true.
I feel like the things we have, because we have the same passion and heart,
Heart, yeah.
and I even values, it makes all that little personality quirks
You're
and
willing to
stuff.
work
and
it out.
Yeah, it's not as big of a deal as you go along the
Yeah.
journey. So I think finding someone spiritually that's on the same level as you, I love that. Best friends. Yeah, I think that's so true. Like we get along. Like you want to get along with your spouse.
Yeah.
And attraction. Like one day, I like. And we're still young and beautiful. But I mean, one day you get older.
Thank God for makeup.
Right, what happens
me.
when you get all you're wrinkly and old and
Yeah,
things
when
don't
your-
look
when
you
your
don't look
looks
quite the same.
deteriorate
And
a
then
When the white hair comes in and you
Which
have
I'm getting a lot of
babies and you have babies,
side.
body changes, stuff like that.
if you don't have a relationship that's more than skin deep, I like that. More than skin
Good.
deep.
Yeah.
It's going to be challenging along the way, and it's so much better as you're going into marriage and even into dating. And
Yeah.
so again, don't rush into. One of the things I found with people is we as people tend to be unsatisfied in whatever season we're at. If you're single,
Always.
they're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to be married. And the married people are like, oh my gosh, I wish I was single.
I had more time alone.
Yeah, you have
to be
kids.
single.
You have kids, and
I
you're
wish
like,
I
oh my
didn't have
gosh, I wish my
kids.
kids are driving me crazy. You don't
Yeah.
have kids, you're like, all I want is kids. And I try to do my best to be like, I have small kids right now. It's hard sometimes.
Y'all, it can be hard, especially in quarantine.
Quarantine.
Seriously, I got like 10 more white hairs, and then you can't even dye your hair. So who knows what's gonna happen at the end of all
Yeah,
this.
it's wild. Our house is basically a jungle right now, and but I think in the middle of all that,
Yeah,
like
but they're adorable at the same time, right?
yeah. let's switch gears a little bit. I know we hit on dating again. You guys have dating questions.
Yeah.
I would love to
Yes.
hear all those, and we could always switch back into a different gear.
Yes.
Going into marriage, and so some of the things I've heard throughout the years, one of the things that people, this is like a common saying. Let us know if anyone's ever told you this, but people will be like, the first year of marriage is hell. You ever heard someone say that? Or
A lot of
the
people.
first year
that
is
was
so hard.
actually a lot of advice people gave us about marriage was like the first year was going to be your hardest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for us, I mean, I could speak at least for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like our first couple years of marriage were like blissful. I
Absolutely.
mean, first of all, we were making love passionately all the time. I mean, it was like, we were young and in love and full of fire and zeal, and all the little stuff wasn't, I'm sure we had our little arguments and stuff, but not really. I
Sorry,
remember
Yvonne. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching.
hey man, that's important, right? Like, I mean, you want that in your marriage, but you want passion and
Yes,
fire.
you do.
Yes.
It's important.
And romance. But you want it all. And so, but coming into marriage, so that's one of the things that people told me. And so I think the dating season helped us in that. But we have gone through challenges along the way.
Our first year wasn't our toughest.
Our first year was definitely not
Yeah.
our toughest.
Yeah.
Our hardest years had been transition years, and our hardest seasons, I should say. And when we had our first child, and you could tell a little bit of that, but you struggled a little bit with postpartum depression.
Yes. Well, first of all, he was 9 pounds 4 ounces.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
So
Still a big boy.
my pregnancy was tough. Like at the end, I was so big and it was painful. And then delivery was terrible. And then I had postpartum anxiety and
Yeah.
depression. And then my body was just like blob.
Our house
Like,
was
you know,
never clean, and that
it
was
was
stressful
such
for
a
you.
tough
and-
time. Like I felt like my identity, felt lost. Like, and then I'm trying to like adore and love my beautiful boy, and then there's my husband in the middle of it. So that was a tough time for me. And I think you were trying to figure out, how do I navigate this as a husband and as a father, right?
Yeah.
So I think big changes. That's what always it's like a bump in the road, and that's what makes you kind of like, okay, wait. And you have to readjust, and you have another bump in the road, and then you readjust. So
Yeah, like when we moved home from Australia, strangely enough, that
Yeah.
was also a hard time. One
Yeah.
of the reasons why is now we went in Australia. I went to school and worked just like all the time, round the
went
clock.
to school all day, and then
Worked every night.
until 11 at night. So I really didn't see him for almost a year.
Yeah, like we didn't see
really.
each other that much. It
Yeah.
was like
It was
passing
tough.
by each other.
It was
And it was a
tough.
season. It wasn't healthy. I wouldn't do it forever, but it was
yeah.
just our season of life. And then we moved back, and all of a sudden we worked together. We like lived together again officially. Like we were together all the time, and I
Yeah.
felt like we just bugged each other. I think that the whole year.
We went from being in our own separate lives,
Like,
so
I
to
didn't even
speak,
know you.
and then coming back together to make another life together. It was an
Yeah.
interesting transition. I wasn't.
We just had our
expecting.
second kid too in the middle of all that.
Yes.
And so
which I also had postpartum again.
Yeah.
So, but
And so that was some of
figured that
some
out
of
better.
it. So let me say this about going into even like deeper into relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that'll help you. I think one of the biggest things I've seen people do wrong in relationships would be they don't know how to fight fair. I think that is a huge aspect
Fight
I've
fair,
seen
yeah.
in relationships, or set boundaries or rules upon a fight
This
or an
is
argument.
good. This is
and
good, yeah.
and so what'll happen is, so you have an argument. Let's say, I don't know, I forgot to put my socks away. It's all usually, a lot of times arguments start small, maybe they're big, but and so all of a sudden, things escalate, things are getting intense, you're kind of bickering. But there's certain things that we've always tried to do and set as far as rules of engagement. Like we do and don't do certain things when we fight.
True.
Perfect example is we never yell, or at least we try not to raise our voices, I should say, when we fight or argue. But that's kind of a rule. And I remember,
it's more like, babe, oh my gosh.
dang, that was Latina right there. But I think one of the things that, I think earlier in our marriage, and so I'm naturally a little more people probably didn't, I don't know if they know this or not, but I'm more passionate and kind of aggressive, and
You're more than me? We're kind of both.
I don't know. Yeah, that's true. But I would say that I'm more I have more of an anger side of things, if that makes sense. I
Okay.
don't know, but maybe that's wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I think early in our marriage, we had a couple arguments where I probably raised my voice, kind
You
of.
slammed a door.
No, you were the door slammer,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
and not
You
me.
made some
I
sort of
punched a
racket.
couch or something, and so
I shut down and I cry, and he gets angry. That's how we
Punch the
operate
couch.
in conflict. So
But anyway, I remember you telling
Yeah.
me, he's like, don't ever do that again when we fight. And I've always remembered that, like, okay, and during a fight, like, I do not lash out in anger. Like, I have to keep
Kicking trash cans and
yeah,
people
I mean,
get crazy.
sometimes we're
holster
raised, right,
walls.
throwing the chancla.
Just because you're
I mean,
Hispanic doesn't mean you can kick a wall or punch a hole in the wall. Come on, guys.
so I think that's part of having rules, like
Yeah.
simple rules of fighting. Don't raise your voice. That works for us. Maybe
Sorry.
that's not yours. She keeps making me spin.
Sorry.
Don't raise your voice. Maybe don't
Yeah.
throw things. Don't leave the house. That's another thing. Like if we're fighting, and I'm not just gonna storm out of the house. That's like a rule, right? Because then she's like, "Where is she
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
going?" And maybe if we're in a fight and I needed to go somewhere, I'd be like, "Babe, I'm just gonna go to the store real quick." Yeah, I don't mind communicating, like, "Hey, I'm gonna go for a walk. Be right back," or something. But I just won't storm off and
Yeah.
go
No,
somewhere for
usually we never
hours.
just
Never,
leave.
never do something
Yeah.
like that. And so those are like things, at least in our marriage. And again, you guys can throw in some maybe thoughts, and I
Yeah.
would love to hear some questions or
Please
ideas
ask us
from
any
you guys.
questions
Yeah.
about marriage. We're not professionals, but we can pass along what's worked for us.
I'll say too, like, just because you're having an argument doesn't mean you're dysfunctional.
Yeah, everyone is going to have times of conflict. That's natural.
Yeah, like I think sometimes we
It's how
tend to
you
look at
handle
our
it.
own marriage, right, and be like, oh my gosh, we're so messed up.
Yeah.
And you might just be, I mean, you might be a little bit messed up, but everyone's a little bit messed up. You know what I mean? Like, we all have areas, I
Yeah.
think, that we're not perfect in and growing in and being better in. So just because if you're having a struggle doesn't mean you're like all messed up. I think you
Yeah.
can overcome some of those
Even
things.
as a believer, I feel like marriage is a good way to grow. It grows you, right? Like, besides the Holy Spirit, there's my husband, and it's like that constant daily. He sees the worst of me, my bad moods, my irritations, my whatever it may be. And so it's like a constant, just grow, really an opportunity to grow when you have a spouse.
Yeah. So fighting fair,
Yeah.
I think is a huge one. I think the second one is making time to like talk to each other.
I was going to
or-
say, once a week we try, and I know the quarantine's been kind of weird, but we try to go on a date.
And even in the quarantine, we've just been like going for a drive.
We went to Matucci's and we got food and
Ate
we
in the parking lot.
sat, by the Bosque and just,
Yeah.
but we just talked about dreams and how you doing.
But I think even more than that, if it's not practical, is we just probably sit down at least for a few minutes every day at the end of the day at some point, whether that be in the living room or in the bedroom or
Yeah.
somewhere, and just kind of chat.
Yeah.
And I'm not one probably like a lot of people. I don't like to talk about, and Sally knows about me, I don't typically like to talk about my day most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, but wise be like, tell me how your day was. And I don't know, for me, that I want to talk, I tend to like to talk about the future, what I'm thinking, more than like what I did in the office to that day. But I think it's important that you share like good heart to hearts with people.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that keeps us close, right? I think it'd be a good one to kind of tap into intimacy as a spouse is how to keep our relationship intimate.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be honest. We've probably had seasons and have moments where instead of feeling like you're in a relationship, you're like roommates. Do you ever feel
especially
like
with kids and little kids.
Yeah.
Because you're just constantly passing like, hey, honey, can you go get groceries? Hey, Wesley needs this, whatever. It's like,
I feel
we
like
get busy,
I've
yeah.
talked a lot, but I maybe I could have you share a little bit, like, just how do you be more than roommates? How do you continue to be friends? I think is number one.
Yeah, that's
But also spouses and intimate, and have that level of like trust, communication, and all that stuff.
well, and are you talking about sex as well?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
all that could be in there.
So I think it's easy to get disconnected, you guys. It's so easy to do that. Like I said, with life being busy or even being at home, you can just do your own thing. Everyone
Yeah.
does their own things, goes in their own rooms, does their thing. But we have to be intentional. I would say you have to be intentional. Okay, honey, no matter what, tonight, me and you in such and such room or closet, it's on.
Meet me in the closet, baby.
We have little ones, right? And Zara she will follow me. And
Oh, my God.
hey, if I gotta be like, hey, mommy needs
Don't judge, y'all.
mommy
I mean, it's-
needs to go to the bathroom, 10 minutes,
Lie
closet,
to your
let's
kids
do
too. This is what we're teaching you today. Lie to your kids to get away from.
No, but you have to be intentional. And I think it's good as a couple to talk about how many times do you want to have sex during the week? Are you meeting each other's expectations in that? Is it realistic? But it's important to have sex during the week, at least once a week, I would say. Try to put it in there somehow, just even, I know my husband loves massages, so
I
even,
do.
even if I just rub his shoulders or his back, he likes to be his back to be scratched, kind of like a puppy, you know. I'm just kidding, but I think just little things like that, little bits of intimacy. Saying I love you. I like for him. I told him that I like him to kiss me in the morning before he leaves. Like that's just something that's special to me. So he always kisses me at night. I mean, in the morning before he leaves. So there's just you got to constantly communicate. I think in regards to intimacy. So
Yeah.
that might be my thing. I have another topic, but unless you're
No, we can stay here just for a
Okay.
second. I'll just share is
Okay.
that I think again going maybe like into communication is like I think sex is important whether or not you're getting along all the time too. I think there is a unity.
if there's that not
looking each other in the eyes,
Yes.
like I don't know, it does.
because if you don't have sex with relationship, it's just like a duty. But when you have sex and connection, relational, it's making love. So I think you got to start.
That was deep.
That was a quote. But it's you got to first, how are you doing? Even if it's awkward and you haven't done that, let's have dinner together at the table. Let's have dinner outside together. How are you doing? How are you feeling during this time? Just talking like friends, I think. And then once you can feel connected like that relationally, it's easier to be intimate.
And maybe
each other.
everyone's personality is different again, but I love to sit down and I feel intimate and close when we're dreaming together, when I'm sharing like what's going on and inside of me and like what
Yeah.
I've been feeling or going through and maybe the stress. And I'm not always the best at, like, you guys probably know me, but I'm not always, I don't
think
feel
it's a man thing, though. Men don't naturally share everything that's in their heart. We have to dig a little bit.
I like to process first and then communicate, but I do love that she would listen to me as I'm just kind of
Sometimes I
going
just
through
give
my
you a little
thoughts.
time if I feel like you're. So my husband, he kind of, when he has a lot going in his mind, he's like,
I talk to myself.
You're
Don't
like-
judge.
he
I feel
does-
like that's what makes me a good preacher.
He's
I feel like I
always
preach
like
in my head.
thinking, like I think he does a lot of inward processing. I'm an outward. I like to talk my process out. He likes to think it. So I can tell when he's in a week or a few days of like processing something. And when I feel it's time and we're not tired and we're not, all that kind of stuff, just like, okay, so hey, I noticed something's been on your mind lately. Are you doing okay? And just talk like that, right?
Yeah. And I think the last thing I'll say in the middle of that
Yeah.
too is expectations. And so this is one of the ones too, is like, I think it's easy. I think y'all can write something on this is it's easy to have unmet expectations when you haven't communicated those expectations and
Yes.
can lead to tension in your marriage. I'm telling you, this is so good right
Unmet
here.
expectations are 100% of why couples fight.
Yeah,
Always.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Right, is that I'm expecting, I don't know, you to cook dinner, or even simple. I was expecting to talk to you, and we haven't talked, and so
Yeah.
there's just all the like if you come in with an expectation, and so Sally, I feel like you're better at that even than me. Is that you'll be like, I feel like we haven't spent time together. I have an expectation that we spend time together by tomorrow or something. Like you will clearly communicate how you
And sometimes
How you're
husbands can be
expecting.
like, I see you every day. Like, what do you need? But, you have to be clear. No, like, I mean, I want to sit down and chat about how you're doing, kind of a time together, not just seeing each other. So.
Yeah. And so being clear on expectations,
Expectation
I
is
think
massive.
totally
In
help.
cleaning, because I think we have expectations of that in meals together,
Yeah.
in birthdays, and I don't know, there's so many things. So just instead of getting hurt all the time, you have to communicate what expectations you are having.
And there'll be even moments like you're cleaning the house or something, and I don't know, me and Wesley are watching a movie upstairs or something. And I feel like if I don't go downstairs and ask, I'm like, okay, just I want to be clear. Do you have an expectation that I'm cleaning you with you right now? And
Yes,
sometimes you're
yes.
like, well, at least could you clean up upstairs or something? And sometimes you're like, no, I'm just picking up. And I'm like, cool. Like, I just want to know that we're clear. Because if not, like, I don't want you to feel like, I don't want you to be upset with me. And then I don't want to, like, I want to know that we're just good.
And just
it's clear.
because I want to spring clean doesn't mean my husband needs to have that set inverted, because that's usually how I am,
That's true. It's the Latina. What do they spring cleaning every Saturday?
I'm like, yeah, so can I switch to another topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I want to talk about, this is going to be an interesting one, how to have a marriage that's affair proof.
Oh, deep. All right, let's do it. Let's
Okay,
go there.
because to be honest, as a friend, as a pastor, whatever, I've seen a lot of couples make mistakes, or they can do things to have a protection for their marriages without getting into an affair. So Anyway, if you guys have any questions about that, you can, or give me a thumbs up in this topic.
How to make your marriage affair.
Yes, because we all know affairs are super painful, right?
Yeah.
But I do think there are some simple things that we can do to help that. Of course, number one, all the stuff we just talked about, you got to keep it fresh, you know? Girls, if you need to try on something, you know, put something on different, if you need to try different things, husband, buy some flowers. Let's try a little bit. If you keep that romance alive, then I'm not going to want to look anywhere else. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if we keep each other, keep it fresh, even do things that are new together. Let's go on a trip together. Matthew and I always try to do one big trip together, alone, no kids, every year, because it keeps it fresh. You know, for us, that's something.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just little things that we can do. We'll do a weekend trip once in a while when we feel like we're disconnected. Keep it fresh. Have a really good weekend. Candles, stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Get a little crazy. Keep it fresh is my thing. Because, look, if you're going to be married 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it can get a little mundane. So we gotta pep it up, okay? That's one of the things. Second thing, I think, is how we communicate with people that are not our spouse.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just talk to you. There are guys who will message me on Facebook or Instagram, like DM me, like, hey, what's up, Pastor Sally? How are you doing? If it's someone I already kind of know, it's a volunteer, I'll just be like, hi, how are you? But really, it's just, I either don't answer at all, or I'm like, what is the point here? You know, and I'll show my husband, like, I don't know, this random guy's messaging me. And I just think that's you got to be careful. It's all the DMs, it's all the text messages, all these things. We don't text message opposite sex other than like business talk. Like, hey, Hector, did you do this graphic, right?
Yeah.
Hey, so-and-so, you know, Alex and Ilse, and I try to include spouses and conversations. You know, if I ever text a guy, it's like very plain, simple. And I think that's something me and you have tried to do. Like,
Yeah, I could
we're
go.
not into sketchy text messages or DMs and stuff
I can
like
go a little
that.
bit deeper as a guy.
I
think
there.
one of the things is I try to position myself knowing that I am a guy. And even though I love Jesus and I'm a man of God, I've seen many people who love Jesus and are men and women of God have failures in their marriage.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel like, I feel like it's arrogant and prideful to come into it thinking that I'm stronger than that, or better
I would
than
never
them,
think of
or I
that,
would
or
never
never
do
do
that. Yeah, like for me, I'm like I am a human being with a fallen nature and
Yes.
saved by
One-
grace alone.
Yes.
And so I want to approach my life knowing that I have the potential for failure. I'm just being honest. Like I think if I can throw that out there, that I have the potential for failure like anybody else. And so these are things like for me is I have lots of boundaries. Again, we
Yes.
talked about boundaries and fighting, but also boundaries just on your sexuality in general, I think is really helpful. So some of the
Yes.
things that I don't text girls, like if it's business related, let's say I'm texting Jazz, let's say, I don't just be like, hey, what's up, girl? What's going on? What are
in
you
your
doing
heart?
tonight? Yeah,
You know,
like what's God been
what do you-
speaking to
yeah.
you? And it's not that we don't ever have those kind of conversations, but I want Sally sitting next to me if I'm having a conversation with a
Yeah.
girl like that. Like,
Yeah.
do you know? Does that make sense? Hope y'all kind of getting that. But
We don't want secrets between opposite sex with without our husbands and wives being included on.
Well,
those
I think
things.
it protects both you, right? Because then you don't have to
Yeah.
worry. But it also protects the other person.
Exactly.
That I'm not like
putting them in a weird position.
putting them
as
in a weird
well.
position, or like feeling like there's a hint or
Absolutely.
something.
Yeah.
And I could give a ton of examples. Even at that, I've done my best throughout to never have to ride in the car alone with a girl. You know, I've had
We
like
both have
rare
that.
occasions. I think I broke
In our
down
offices.
on the road one time, and Ashley Martin picked me up, I think, and drove me to the church. But if I like can avoid that at all cost, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
And so again, those are just like really, really wise things I think you can do to protect yourself emotionally,
Yes.
spiritually,
Yes.
sexually, physically. Like you don't have burner accounts. Like if you have 2 Instagram accounts, man, I mean, I'm just
Dude,
telling you right now.
Don't be sketchy.
I don't know. There's TikToks. There's everything, and
Yes.
all that stuff can be just a world of mess.
If
And if
you're-
it's a mess for
yeah.
you, like it's not worth it. Like
It's
just
not.
delete it. To me, like
Yes.
it's not worth it. And again, simple things like you have access to my phone, and I know my wife actually, you don't ever really like grab my phone and look at it or anything, but I just feel like if I'm like, I don't know, you're like, hey, can I get someone's number off your phone or something? I wanted to look at something. I'm like, yeah, like go ahead. Like I've never like
Been like, this is my
Oh,
phone.
no, don't.
You can't watch that. You can't see my
It
phone.
puts a fear in her, first of all. And then if I have to do that, come on, y'all. I mean, like,
It
you
brings
know
an
I'm doing
insecurity
something.
to your spouse.
And then it means you're doing something sketchy,
Yes.
right? Like, why do you have to hide? What is there
Yes.
possibly to hide? And if you are having a struggle, it's better just to communicate that with your
Yes.
spouse. Even though that's painful, what's more painful is if you take that struggle to the next
Come
level.
on.
You know what I
Yes,
mean?
it's
And
so
so
painful.
it's better just to communicate with
And
your
you don't want to
spouse.
have an insecure spouse. Like if my husband's not, if there's something that makes him feel uncomfortable, I respect that. I'm like, sure, I won't do that, or I won't talk with this guy or whatever, or vice versa. Like if we're uncomfortable with something, we talk about it and we respect each other. I'm not like, what's wrong with you? You're just an insecure, blah, blah, blah. No, because I love him and I honor him. I'm like, babe, if that makes you feel uncomfortable, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that, you know? And you're right, we both have access to emails, Facebook, Instagram, our phones. Like we know each other's passwords and everything. So if we ever needed to, we would look at it. And I think that's just part of respect. That's just part of sharing life together, I think. But
It's helped us, right? Like I feel like
come on.
I feel like that's
Thank
an
you,
area for me
Jesus.
and you that it's not like a fear. So what happens too is now we don't have jealousy in our marriage,
Yes.
which saves us so much fights.
Yeah.
We never fight over jealous reasons, like
Mm-hmm.
ever. We're never. I mean, it's so rare, and that we have like that kind of.
The
argument.
only time I get insecure is because I have a bad dream about some woman chasing my husband. I don't know if any of you
Should be
guys.
out. Don't
And
stay
in the morning,
away
I'm
from her.
like-
And I'm all, what are you even talking about?
I don't know
I don't
if-
even know that
I
person.
don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but you're like, this girl is after you, whatever. I don't know. It's weird. But I mean, really, though, I think we try to just we try to make our marriage as secure as possible.
Yeah.
And I think partners need to do that. We're in America, right? So we're like, it's my right, my phone, my independence. When you said I do, it's not independence anymore. It is codependence. It is a team. We do this together. We're relationship together, marriage, family, kids, money, everything we do. We're a team,
Yeah.
right?
Another thing on the flip, because we've established that, because I've seen girls too that are like, let me see your, like, they're like always insecure, and maybe
Yeah.
they've had a reason to be that way. I don't know, but I think because I think of the way we've positioned ourselves relationship, not that we're perfect or anything, but like you're never like, oh my gosh, who you texting, who you do, you know what I mean? It's saved. We don't have those kind of conversations. It's so helpful if you
Yeah.
could just make wise decisions with the opposite sex. And it's actually like not that hard. I think people like
Yeah.
to just have wise relationships with the opposite sex. Like I don't know, like I shouldn't have to pour out my emotions and heart to a woman who's not my spouse. And if I can't do it with my
Come
spouse,
on, that preach.
Man, I gotta fix that.
If you become a best friend with somebody at work, like of the opposite sex at work or somewhere else, then that means your friendship level of marriage, something's wrong with it. You need to stop that, and you need to build what you have. You know, the grass is not greener on the other side. If you water it, it'll grow. If you water this marriage, it'll grow. If you water something outside of your marriage, that will grow. And so you got to choose what you're going to pour into, what you're going to make grow.
let me say this too.
Yeah.
Is remember why you chose your spouse.
Yes. It's good.
And so sometimes I can get frustrated with you
Yeah.
over the very reason that I married you.
Come on. Yeah.
Like, do y'all know what I'm talking about? Like, say, one of my most things I love most about Sally, that's most attractive in her to me,
Yeah.
is that she's a strong leader. That she's like independent. She doesn't need me, but she loves me. Like, I love that. I love that she's a rock. She's solid. She's steady. You know, all of those things.
Feisty.
Most of the yeah, I do like that. Sometimes, I'll be honest, I'm like, girl, just chill, like, you know. But again, those are all the reasons I married you.
Yes.
And sometimes it's easy to forget, like, and some of the reasons that you would marry me, let's say,
because you're strong. You're a strong leader. So right, we constantly have this like, well, you should let me do it my way, and then I'm like, no. I married him because I love that about him. I love that he's a strong leader. I like that he knows my man. Like when he makes a decision, it's done. You know, he's like, I'm going for this. This is my vision. And I need to love that about you. It is what I love about you. But in times of conflict, it's a thing that could drive me nuts because he could be stubborn. But then it's like, actually,
stubborn.
I love that he's a hard worker. I love that he is a man of vision. I love that he's a man of big dreams. And so that's part of it. You have to remember that, right? That's so good.
You looked like you wanted to hit on something.
Well, no, Gigi was saying, should these same rules apply for dating? And I think you're referring to respecting with boundaries. And I would say yes, especially if it's turning into a serious dating relationship. You know, if it's just a beginning kind of a thing, then, you know, you guys will both have your own friendships and stuff. But as it got serious with us, as we started to know, like, hey, I'm really liking him. Yeah, I'm really feeling like this is going somewhere. That's when we started talking about our relationship. That gets so tricky because you're used to having really close guy friends and close girlfriends. And so at a certain point when we got really serious, I had to talk to my friends who I was close with, just that things are going to change a little bit now that, you know, like more heart-to-heart or one-on-one hangouts at a coffee shop. I wanted to respect you. So that was going to change, especially when we got engaged.
Yeah.
That really changed. And that was hard. But I had to let go of those guys being my best friends because now this was the man I was committing to. I don't know if that helps, but I think it just depends on your stage of relationship.
Yeah, I could
respect.
totally see that too. And I remember specifically at a point in our relationship, I'm like, kind of changing the nature of relationship. Now, we still have great relationships with people of the opposite sex.
I have good guy friends.
Like, if you're so
different.
jealous or insecure that, like, your spouse doesn't even, like, know anyone of the opposite sex, like, that's a little extreme, and it's not healthy. I have great friendships, and, like, I mean, I feel like I'm close to people of both sexes, but I do have boundaries on those relationships in that usually, like, we're close in the context of community, not as just, hey, me and you are close in the back corner.
I don't go with the guy
texting
to coffee
somewhere.
and talk about what God is doing in our lives.
And
if we do that, it's me and my husband and this guy, or, you know, a few of us. It just protection for all of us.
And I feel like one of the things I've always had a little bit of a reputation of throughout the years is maybe being a little bit socially awkward, especially with girls, and maybe distant or not. And it's not that I've ever wanted to be, but for me, I would rather be a little bit distant and socially awkward and honoring of my spouse than to come off as like flirty and like that's just me. Yeah. I feel like I've learned those lessons, especially in my younger years. Like sometimes being overly nice can be mistaken for
flirtatious, which was my problem because I'm an extrovert and I'm super nice to everybody, and I love talking to everybody, and I love getting to know everybody, and I love being close to people. It's my thing. But especially when I was single, guys thought that I liked them, and I was like, oh shoot, like I was just trying to be friendly. So I had to start learning how I can still be nice and friendly without coming across as flirty or the wrong impression or something.
It all comes down to a fair proofing. I'll just say one more thing on this, and we can move on. But again, y'all probably seen me in the hallways, and maybe you bumped into me one-on-one, ladies, and I might be a little bit awkward, but then I'm like with a bunch of people, and I seem more myself. And that's simply that. Yeah. It's like, I want you to know. And I feel like even though I might seem awkward, I'm like, I'm actually protecting you. Is that you will never think that I've ever, flirted or led you on, but then you're going to get a little bit more of me, especially if I'm around you, or even I'm just around a group of people. Like
absolutely.
I can be myself in a little bit more of a context. Again, protecting my spouse, also protecting the opposite sex, protecting my relationship with God. I mean, it's all within the context of there.
Of an affair is so not worth it. Like, if you could do whatever you can to work on your marriage, it'll save you so much, So
what do you want to hit on?
Okay, we're gonna hit on. Oh, hi everybody, Gigi. I hope I answered your question. You can message me or something. Frida and Gilbert, Linda, hi you guys. Good to see everybody.
Good to see ya.
I mean, I think we have topics left like friendship and kids, or we could go back to dating. I don't know, what would you guys like to hear? I will say I'll go back to dating a little bit because we touched on it. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, so Listen, if you are a woman of God and you're single and you're ready to find a spouse, will you let me know? Because I'm gonna try to find somebody for you. Okay, so you
We'll
can
hook you
you can
up.
DM me. I know some great guys like Brandon from Australia.
Honey, no names, no names,
Josh,
no
you know?
names, no names. Don't start throwing
I
names
have
out.
so many good guy friends that I would love to connect with people. Anyway, my thing with dating, I was thinking about just also how to date and not have sex before marriage. Is a good topic. Can I hear an amen? or you're not saying amen. So yeah, how to date and not have sex.
And we made it, but it was hard.
Let me tell you,
The passion was real.
well, Matthew was really the first. You were the first man that I ever loved. That I fell in love with.
Not Rico.
Honey. Oh my God.
I love it.
You did not just
Yes,
throw
I
his
did.
name
Boom, boom,
out.
boom. Yeah, I did. Yes, love it. This is awesome.
Do you want me to throw?
This is getting good.
you
No,
want
no,
me-
no,
you
no.
want
Don't
me
throw
to
nah,
throw
babe.
names
No
out? You
names,
want
no
me
names.
to throw
I mean,
names?
it's worse
Okay,
for you. No, time. You know what? It's different for you because you're like the Virgin Mary, or we swear.
Honey, I ain't a virgin anymore.
Anyways, this thing took a whole nother direction. Holy smokes.
Jesus.
Lord,
Anyway.
help us back on track.
Okay, so let me just talk to you about things you can do to date and not become sexually active, okay? Because, and let me tell you something, sex is so beautiful in marriage. Like, the first time we had sex was our wedding night, which was like, I get it. Like, I was like, okay, I get why God wants us to have sex in marriage because it's a safe place. I didn't have to worry about if I got pregnant or AIDS or an STD or whatever. It was this safe place that I was 100% my whole self with this man that I respected and I trusted, and it was just a very beautiful experience. And so I get it. I get why God loves when people wait to have sex until they get married. But okay, so some things that'll help you to not have sex or do any sexual things is I think we tried to not kiss.
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
I mean, how much of this
Boundaries.
message has just been
Boundaries. That's really life, right?
Life
if you
is-
have boundaries,
yeah.
you will be safe.
It's
But
like a revelation for me.
we tried to. What was our rule about trying not to kiss until
We were engaged.
We didn't quite make that. To be
Not
honest.
quite.
But we kissed maybe 2 or 3 times.
Now, let me say
in
this.
9 months.
Funny story. So we tried not to. So we dated about a year. We tried not to date,
Yeah.
kiss, and then one time I think you made a move on me here in the church hallway, like kind of near the kids area.
I do
She was
not
aggressive.
remember.
She was an aggressive
Oh
woman.
my gosh. He's totally lying right now.
But anyway,
Lord, forgive him
somehow,
of his sin.
we were just, kissing a little bit there in the hallway. And who walked out? Like someone, was it one of the like pastors or leaders?
You
just
know-
boom, turned the corner, and there we are with the full. I don't know, not that like we were doing anything terrible, but I was like our first time kissing there in the middle of the hallway. I was like, and it was so embarrassing. And so there was that time, and then another time we were about to get engaged.
But I didn't
like
know.
3 days, and I
We
knew.
were overseas in the Middle East.
I knew, and so I was like, 3 days away. It's a perfect. We have like a perfect moment. It was perfect, and I was like, I'm
Yeah.
going for the makeout, man. I'm going for the kiss right now. And then I went for it, and again, one of the leaders walked, like one of our leaders, like walked in
That
the
was
room.
so
I hadn't seen them. Like, why did they
embarrassing.
walk in? And then, oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
And again, and I think another boundary we had is we were never alone in a house without someone else there.
Yes, that was really good because, I had my own place at the time by myself. And so we're like, okay, we know that if we're alone in my house and it's 10, 11, 12, your hands start getting loosey-goosey, and things could happen. Again, protecting, ourselves. And so we always had this rule to never be alone. But this one time,
One
this
time.
only time that we were
It
alone
was
in my
Valentine's
house.
Day, and I was gonna make
Yeah.
dinner, and we were already engaged, and so
Yes.
we were due to be married in about 4 months.
Yes.
And so, funny enough, is you had like a 12-year-old neighbor, like 2 houses down.
Jessica.
And so we
She
would always
remembers
bring,
this.
Jessica, come over. Jessica, come over. So we weren't alone. And so Jessica was always
She
hanging
was
out
our
with
little
us.
buddy.
She was our
She was our
accountability
little
partner. She's like
purity,
12.
Our little purity.
Right, but it worked.
Yeah.
Our
blanket.
12-year-old neighbor was our accountability.
Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, thanks. Shout out to Jessica. But and then like the first time like we like had ever like kind of broken that rule, I was like, oh, it's a big deal. I bought some crab legs, some steaks, and we're like, we'll eat dinner and then we'll just bail. And sure enough, who pulls up in the driveway
bring me a Valentine's
is
gift.
her dad, Pastor Steve.
Yes, which he knew our boundaries. We had told him these are the boundaries we're trying to set so we stay pure before marriage.
So
and my dad pulls up. He was ticked and I think disappointed. He was just like, yeah. And we had doors open, windows, blinds. Remember?
Yeah, I said we're going to open everything. That way.
Because darkness and late hours, those are your two like weak spots when it comes to sexual activity. Okay, so you got to there's something about when the dark comes in and when you're alone.
The freaks come out at night.
Y'all, the passion is unleashed. So you got to be careful with that. So, we also had kind of a curfew. And I know it sounds really crazy, but look. Again, we had to protect ourselves. So I think we had 10 or 11 o'clock at night, not to stay up too late because then we started making out too heavily.
Some heavy makeout.
So our goal was to try not to kiss until engagement. And like we said, we had a few moments of weakness, and then we made out heavily while we were engaged.
Holy smokes!
And then we had to. I'm just being honest, y'all.
Going next level.
And then we had to come up with okay, we better not stay out past 11 o'clock together because we're just getting too loosey goosey.
Not being alone.
And stop being alone in a house. So
I think
that helped
many
us
people,
a lot.
maybe people might be like, "Oh, that's so prude," but it worked. Hey.
Because I'm telling you, once
night.
sex enters into a relationship before marriage, then guys and girls as believers, you're dealing with shame and your guilt. And then now what if you don't feel like you want to be with this person, but now you feel like you kind of have to marry them because you got sexually involved? And it gets so complicated. And if you can, everything you can do to stay pure before marriage, it will be so worth it. Just do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you can get freaky every day of your life after that.
Hey, do your thing. Let's
okay,
we got a few more minutes. Let's just try to kind of wrap it up on a little bit. Maybe we could kind of end with raising kids because I think that creates an additional challenge, don't you think, in a relationship? And kids change things, right? If you don't realize it. I'll start with just saying a couple things is don't build your marriage directly around your kids. Our kids are an addition to our marriage, but they are not they're not the center of our marriage.
Come on.
And you have to be careful with that because our kids, let's say we have them 18, 20 years depending on their situation, whatever. But eventually they do move on. And what are you going to do once that happens? And I think you can easily lose yourself in your kids and sports and whatever, and I'm taking care of this and all that, is that the kids are not the foundation of my marriage. First of all, Jesus is, and then after that, we are number one.
Yes.
And so we've always been good with hey, Ma, take the kids for the night or whatever. I'm serious, or even doing trips without them and stuff, because I love my kids and I want to be around them all the time, but they're not the center. They're not the center of everything that we do and are doing, so... I think that becomes important.
And I know that a lot of moms feel guilty about that. They're like, how did you leave your kids for a week to go to Paris and London? And I was like, easy.
No problem. It was fantastic, actually.
No, it was hard. I mean, you try to settle and work it all out. But at the end, again, if me and him are not good, then our kids and our family and our home life won't be good.
Yeah.
So to me, that is worth it. 1 week out of the entire year is worth it to go overseas or a special trip with my husband. Because if we're happy, guess what? My kids are happy. If they see us love one another, then they know what love looks like. If they see us in a good, healthy relationship, they know what kind of relationship they're going to want in the future. So to me, it's an investment. Not only for us and to our olden days, but also for our children. We're building legacy. We're building a foundation here, so it's important.
Well, let's finish with this little thought here. Is the best thing you could leave with your children is by demonstrating a healthy marriage for them.
So good.
That's the best
amen and amen
best thing
to that.
you can do for them is modeling a healthy marriage. And how do you model a healthy marriage? It's not all about the kids, right? And so that would be my number one, I would say, to model that. Yeah, so.
And we didn't really talk about kids, but we do love our kids.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
And they're awesome.
I think I'm going to keep them. I've been thinking about this for a while, and we're going to keep them. They're great.
They're sweet kids. I love my babies.
Yeah. So again, church, we love you. Hopefully y'all learned something tonight or get something, or I don't know, just maybe we entertained you.
Or we just close?
You want to pray?
Yeah, I'm going to pray for you real quick. I can't help it.
We've been dropping quite a bit. That's why I've been kind of maybe let's kind of go. But yeah, pray.
Okay, just real quick, I'm going to pray for you. Lord, I pray for all of
Thank
my
you,
single
Lord.
friends out there. God, I pray that while in the waiting and in the wondering and in the dating, God, that you'd give them wisdom and clarity, and they would
Lord.
keep their pants on and buttoned, and they
Holy
would honor you with their lives and know that you have great plans for them in the future. Give them strength, Lord.
Yes.
Give them strength in the waiting. And I pray for couples out there, some who may be hurting, some who may be broken. I just pray for the healing. I pray that they would really talk and
Yes, thank you,
communicate
Lord.
about really what's going on, and there would be some breakthrough even during
Mm.
this time of quarantine. I pray for healthy families, healthy marriages, healthy children, healthy homes. God, thank you for this time.
Yeah.
Amen.
Hey, message us if you have any private questions or concerns or ideas or
Yes.
thoughts. You can always message. If you're a dude, why don't you message me? And if you're a lady,
Good
why don't you
advice.
message my wife?
Yes.
And we will give you some great advice, or at least some decent advice. So
We love you.
we love
Believe
you.
in you.
Love you guys. We shall see you
See you.
Sunday.